everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Next Level of Game Testing, Future Proofing. We are delighted to bring this webinar to you as a joint collaboration in partnership with Testbirds and Qualitest. Today, you have two webinar hosts, myself, Sarah Taylor from Qualitest, along with Richard Waldner from Testbirds, who will join me to moderate the Q&A session. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. While I do that, please view the agenda on your screen for an overview of today's session. Today's webinar will last approximately 30 minutes. To mitigate bandwidth issues and to ensure you enjoy a seamless webinar experience, the presentation is recorded in advance. However, the Q&A discussion panel is live, and today we have a live panel of 5 experts to answer your questions. It is after the presentation that we will open up the floor for a Q&A session and discussion forum. During the presentation, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions by typing them into the chat box of the dashboard. The chat box is at the bottom of the screen. You can send these questions in at any time. We will collect your questions and address these during the Q&A session. I'm now delighted to introduce you to today's presenters, Carl Fryer, Senior Account Manager at Testbirds, and Shmulik Moskowitz, SVP of Learning and User Experience at Qualitest. So over to you, Carl.
Thank you, Sarah. Before we discuss the challenges we see facing the gambling and gaming sector, I'd like to first give a bit of an introduction to Testbirds. And for those of you who aren't aware, crowd testing offers the ability for clients within the gaming and gambling sector access to a vast group of individuals from all different walks of life to target their key demographics and test with real people in real time on their own real devices. It's all about targeting individuals relevant to you and your organization in these real locations with these specific devices, say, for example, with a mobile app game, and the exact type of people who play your games. For example, the difference between sports betting and casino betting as well. When we specifically look at Testbirds Crowd, we have over 400,000 testers across the globe with 900,000 different devices between them, which include mobile, web, TV, consoles, and so on, and across a range of operating systems. Including that, we have testers specifically from different areas across the globe, as each company will have their focus countries, and we examine each of our testers by understanding over 65 different demographic criteria on each individual, such as age, gender, hobbies, and so on, so we can really obtain the right individuals for our clients' needs. Of course, then we have a range of services for this vast crowd to perform with our QA services, focusing more on the device types and operating systems that you require, and our UX testing services, focusing on the specifics of the individual. And it's therefore no coincidence that when we're looking at the challenges within the industry, that crowd testing is just a great fit. So, looking at the challenges here at Testbirds while working with some of our existing clients, there are 3 key aspects that often come across as the testing challenges. The first for us is to find your right target audience. I've already spoken about this in the key aspects behind crowd testing and what it is, and here exactly it solves this key challenge. Although a lot of companies will have a group of beta testers, for example, often this data can be really unreliable due to bias stemming from users' want for extra or free content or free games and so on. And it's hard to obtain that quality of unbiased opinion. In some specific circumstances, also, it can be hard to find, for example, a competitor clients to understand their unique perspective and what is best in the marketplace and what's best on competitor games to understand how we can constantly be competitive. Often this goes hand in hand with the type of data that companies collect. Like most companies who have streams of Google Analytics data, which means you can understand what users are doing, it's often difficult to understand the why behind that. And without this why, it often means that development teams take shots in the dark to make their products better. Hence why this deep dive is so important, and the combination of quantitative and qualitative develops the best products. So matching up what is doing, what the customer's already doing, and the why is happening. Finally, and possibly most importantly, is getting testers to test the complete customer journey from sign up to payment using their own preferred payment methods and their own money. Often because the only way to do so is to give them something for free, which brings us back to that around the original bias as well. Also, with beta communities, it's very hard to set specific tasks and come back to the tester with all of these. So it's important to find testers who can test the whole end-to-end process in an unbiased manner. So when we look at these challenges in relation to the complete user cycle, we can see where these keep arising throughout. At each stage, there are tests that we can perform, but here I want to focus on two of the most important, which is attraction and re-engagement or retention. Let's take it from the beginning of the funnel in attracting and converting. So really looking at how do you attract new players, and once they're on the platform, how do you get them to stay and buy in? As gambling and gaming is such a competitive sector, as there are plenty of companies offering the same things, but being more focused on merely being more competitive on their odds, for example, it's easy as well to find out what competitors are doing, but not so easy to find out what users like what they're doing. And there are many different aspects to being competitive, including designs, including how accessible the information is, how easy to understand all the information is, and just generally how easy the platform is to use. Here at Testbirds, we have run multiple competitor analysis tests, mixing different user groups of our customers' users versus competitor users, new users, and so on, to analyze 2 or more platforms to understand what users like and don't like, especially in that acquisition phase where the first appearances are key. By setting completely the same tasks for testers across these 2 or more different platforms, we can analyze with qualitative data, really going back to that question of why, and finding with the right target audience what is liked in yours and your competitors' platforms to guide future development to obtain new users, i.e. right people and qualitative data to make the right decisions. The same can then really be said for the re-engagement section as well, where UX is a decisive separator amongst competition. One-off players and gamblers are not what companies want to see. You want to keep them engaged and see them come back and play again, also highlighting that you need to look at each step, both individually and as a whole, testing end-to-end to get a holistic view. So looking at a specific example of this end-to-end process and where we highlighted retention and re-engagement, we ourselves were engaged by a games producer to understand why they had a lack of re-engagement. To give you a bit of background behind this was a football game where users can manage a team throughout a season, buying and selling players to try and get them to the top of the league. These types of games are often very complex with many different aspects behind them, however, very popular amongst football supporters. What we knew going into this and going into this bit of research is we knew that we had a lot of quantitative data. And in that, what I mean is that we knew, and the client knew, that we had 10 hours worth of gameplay for each tester until that tester or that user, would drop off of the game. We also knew that this was in Germany, and we also knew that after the first year of drastically high sales, there was also a drastically high drop-off in year 2. So they had a retention problem. What we then actively did is we designed a test, in this case, more focused around that retention area, but you can't do that without testing the whole end-to-end process. So what we did is we ran diary studies, made sure that all of our testers played 10 hours worth of gameplay to accurately represent what was happening in the real life situation, and then also follow up with interviews in this instance to really get an in-depth analysis of where along the cycle did each tester feel that they would drop off during that process. What we found out during this process is actually the game is very complex. And actually, even though there was a 10 hours worth of drop off, a lot of it stemmed from the very beginning. So in that sense, there was very, very hard tutorials that you had to go back and re-listen to. So a lot of that time was actually listening to tutorials. And then by the time they got used to the game, people got bored. And therefore, we needed to introduce meaningful long-term goals, of which the client has gone away and taken that research back on board. When we look at another example, specifically around the gambling sector, where again, we tested end-to-end, but in this case, it was much more generalized across the whole of the user cycle to understand weaknesses and strengths. The generalized approach was taken here mainly due to this being a new platform, a new idea to the market, and therefore we needed a broader focus to ensure all the sign up, deposits, playing, withdrawals ran smoothly and would entice retention. In this instance, what we had is we had testers test across a range of different platforms, because this was based upon iOS, Android, and PC. And what we found that there was actually the usability of the features was good. However, again, here, the information was actually poor and actually resulted in a low net promoter score. What this all highlights is the fact that real user testing with real people, your real demographics, can really aid you in designing and developing continuously a better experience for your users, in that you can get that retention rate so they continually purchase. That's it from me, and now I'm going to hand over to Shmulik, who's going to take you through his side of things from Crowdtesting.
My name is Shmulik. I'm going to present you Crowdtesting. First, I'm going to talk about Crowdtesting. Crowdtesting is the largest pure player quality assurance company. Gartner, one of the companies that are doing assessment, has mentioned us as the 6 years Crowdtesting as visionary in the Magic Quadrant. We are a global company and we have bases around the world. You can see in the UK, in Romania, in Europe, in India, Israel, a few centers, in the US, in the east and west of the US. Some of the sites are offshore from our customers, some is in-house for the customers, and some of the sites are nearshore for the customer, like Romania, that it's nearshore. We have more sites than the map, but this is the main ones. A few facts about gaming and gambling. You hear a lot about data from cars, about how they analyze the game and what happened during the game. And this is a research from 2017 about how user experience. And we found out that 82% of users have experienced at least of one of the following: apps close, crashes, as we call it, latency, the response from the backend time, screen freeze. Usually it's because it didn't get response from the servers, and user interface errors, glitches and things that you see on the screen, movie doesn't look as it should. We also found that 62% say that bugs or glitches make them concerned about the security. This research is proving the fact that in the past year, there were a lot of changes in the quality assurance and business assurance area. In the traditional way, we're talking about functional testing, security and performance, something that everybody knows and used to it. In the past few years, the user experience testing and artificial intelligence, AI, as we call it, got more and more into the gaming industry and for the testing. So what we know now is that a company that doesn't work in this field, the user experience and AI field, in a few years, maybe less, because you know how the technology driven us, they're going to be irrelevant if the user experience, if you don't deal with the user experience, and Carl show a few examples, and they don't have tools, AI tools to expedite or enrich their decision making and their data-driven decision, they're not going to be irrelevant to the market. So therefore, in Crowdtest, we built a three main solution to help companies grow and get more values and reach their agendas. The first one is for enterprise. Basically, we don't have a lot of gaming that going for it, but for enterprise, if they have their own database, the SAP systems, local, and they want to go to the cloud, this is the solution for them. It's helping them to reduce the risk of moving to cloud. The main thing that the enterprise is thinking about is the risk and what's going to happen when they're going from traditional, even COBOL, mainframe. We saw a lot of things in our testing world. They're going to go to the cloud, a lot of risk, and this method reduce the risk. For company that evolved and went to agile, we help them to optimize their agile circles. Sometimes, for example, most of the developers doing the agile work and the testers, designers, product doesn't work with them. And this is the kind of situation that the optimization that we allow can help. The third type of companies that they didn't transfer to or transition to agile world, we can help them to do it from waterfall or other methodologies that maybe they're using. We can help them to move to agile. This solution is the big concept of how we address and how we use our capabilities. Here you have our capability set, and we apply each capability according to the free solution that I showed before. For example, a company that already transferred to agile and they would like to embedded AI solution like QualiSense, one of our main tools for AI, they will have a different outcome. For example, they can analyze all the bugs, all the data from testing, and expedite and get decision making much more efficient. For example, they will know, or the tool will help them to predict each update, and most of the companies doing updates every month, can help them to understand where to do the test and where to do the regression testing, and to see that they don't have any new bugs. And because in each cycle, you cannot test all your game and all your platforms, the AI, after we learn from the data, can help you decide where to put your resource. And from the other hand, if you're new in the agile world, you're still in waterfall and you would like an AI solution, the AI will help us to do assessments, what we call KIA in Crowdtest. We can help you do the assessment and analyze your data from all your work in the waterfall world, for example, and how we're gonna make the transition to agile much more efficient and reduce the risk and let you predict where you need to put your efforts and give you more data about what your status now. So this is, for example, how we work with the solution. We have in all this world, we have a lot of capabilities. Gaming is especially talking about automation, cybersecurity, AI, the digital world, and user experience. This is the things that I'm going to show in my case studies. So I'll give you a little bit of intro about Crowdtest, and I would like to show you a bit about case studies and how we implement our capabilities in several companies in the industry. So for tech localization, what we say, it's a worldwide game. You know, it's a small world, what you say, but it is still very different. So when you're doing translation, or a gaming company that came to us and said, we want to go to a new market, China it was, if I remember correctly, they had a lot of things different. They had to do a lot of things different in their game. So we helped them to do the conversion with the game between location, and help them to change the language. It's not only the language, it's also the slang, or how the game, you know, it's how it goes with the games. We have a lot of very special terms that we use in every game, and sometimes it sounds very different in different language. So that's why you need not only to translate, but to converge and to find the right slang or the right word or the phrase for the different culture that you going into the new market. So this is things that it's not only you get translation, you need to localize your game. A lot of other things that we check when you're doing tech localization is connectivity. We have different networks, different providers, service providers for cell phones. And we saw a lot of different things happening between different countries because of the providers, because some of the cell phones have a provider built operation system with the provider add-ons on their mobile app, mobile phones, and this affect the games. Another thing that we found very trouble when you go into new markets and new territory. Usually, companies will build a new server site close to the country, or maybe sometimes even in the country that they're going into, to make the game work faster. Especially when you're doing a team player in the same country, it's very helpful for them. And we found out that the servers from their home country, home states, usually behave differently from the new market. Sometimes because the update that they're doing, it's more rapid on their own or closed servers. Sometimes it's just because the connectivity and the network and providers on the way. So this is also very important things that you should check if you're going to build a new site servers in the new market or even in someplace else. For the AI application, we have several applications, but this is the one that I choose to show you. You know, there's a saying, if you like chess like me, there's a saying that when Kasparov, he was the world champion in the master in chess, and IBM, if I remember correctly, built a Deep Blue computer. This is the name, Deep Blue. And after a few games, I think the second game, the Deep Blue made a move and Kasparov just withdraw. And when they check afterward, they understand that two things happened. First of all, because of the analyzing, the Deep Blue actually guess or they do it randomly moves. And the other thing that they learned that it wasn't something that they planned. It was a glitch, and that's made Kasparov withdraw. It's something that we think about when we're working with AI and to thinking about how many choices you have in a chess game. So it's kind of like real life. You have so many choices and you don't know what the next move, what's gonna happen, and you need to decide and you need to calculate the way ahead to predict. And this is what we're doing with our tool. So a gaming company developed a few algorithms. One of them is the economy of the game, like in-app promotion. For example, you have the game and you get present in the beginning and you get some trophies, easily paid trophies. You get bonuses in the beginning, and at some point, usually the games start to stop it. Or sometimes they give like trophy or prizes in some dates, like anniversary or things like that, or holidays, packages. And there is very delicate balance between giving free, that the gamer start to get boring, between it's going to be very, the player will want to get the promotion, will be very enthusiastic to get the promotions, and it really helps to the game to evolve. So it's very delicate balance, and it's something that we have to test, because we're doing a kind of A/B testing on speeds, something like that, to test it. And our tool can simulate a lot of transaction. It get the data from what happened until now in the game, and can predict how to create this balance. And like it doing like what we call in AI gun. It's doing like another machine that's fighting the algorithm and see what the balance, and let the algorithm learn how to find the balance. Another things that we did for the company, it's also algorithm for digital advertising. they want to choose where to put the promotion on banners and website and things like that, or when to promote it on the stores. And we help them to do it. We took all the data that they already collect from previous use or previous actions, and then we could help them to predict what to do next, and we show that the results were improved. Another case study that we did in the user experience, what we call play every hand, you'd not always know what the device is going to be for the users, for example. So that's why we built a solution for device coverage for the company. We don't know if they can access to every part of the game, if they understand the language, hear the music, see all the colors. And also, they would be very interested to know about user satisfaction. They get a lot of comments in a lot of websites for reviews. And this is the approach. They say we get a lot of information. We have a lot of information on the net from reviews, from gamer sites and things like that, and the stores. But we had some of them that was, they said that the game is very good. Other ones said the game is boring and they withdraw. They left the game, and they didn't understand how to learn from all the reviews. So what we did for them, we kind of built a mobile app. We have a mobile app in a few sites in the world, and they can remotely access to real physical devices. So that's allowed them not to have to hold all the devices in their lab. They actually can use our lab. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can access our lab, and it's testing on real physical device. It's not emulator or something like that. It's actual device that you can approach. This mix with real devices actually with the crowd, that what Carl said before, it's giving you a very good coverage for devices. Most of the devices we have in the lab, and we have a few, some of the models or some of the operation system can be tested by the crowd. So this is one of the things that we're doing with crowd. Another thing that we did for them is automation for device testing. We could check or test on the mobile app, in the mobile app, also for accessibility. So that's what we did for them also. And we collect a lot of data from all the reviews, a kind of sniffer that we connected them to get all the reviews, all the mention of the game. And then we use our QualiSense tool, the AI tools, and get insight from all the data that we collected. We found actually a very interesting thing. We found that some of the reviews are the same guy in the same words written from the stores and some of the sites from the reviews. And we found a lot of insight where they need to improve their game. And as I said before, the security is something that was always on the table, but especially now, especially you hear a lot of stories during the COVID situation now about cyber attacks. So I think half a year ago, a gaming company asked us we approached the RSA and offer them a new approach for cyber security for the game. What we actually offer them is what we call shiftless cyber. We offer them, usually companies doing a lot of cyber after testing, after the game is in production. They're doing a pen test, and then they can understand what the weaknesses and how to make the game more stable from hacking. What we offer them is to do the security testing through the software developer life cycles. During the developer cycles, we have our testers that we train for cyber testing also, and they doing testing and see in the code level sometimes, and sometimes in the infrastructure level, they're doing the testing, and we found that it's reduced the risk by 80% from the past testing. So you can understand. I think it's easily to understand what significant can be when you're doing the security testing before you finish the the fixing is much more cheaper. You're not open for hacking because it's in developer, the environment it's testing, it's not the environment of production. So 80%, you reduce the risk significantly when you're doing the testing and the security testing through doing the develop and doing the cycle in the testing. So this was the 4 case studies, and I hope I let you understand, or if you have any question, we can open up now for Q&A. Let you understand, I hope me and Carl open your minds for new possibilities through Crowd when you're using the real devices in real situation, and also some capabilities that we are doing the testing and the agile develop cycles. Thank you very much.